Create an HTML and CSS website from scratch the fastest way possible. Today, we're going to be creating a basic e-commerce front end using HTML and CSS. And this website is going to specifically sell electronics. All of the source code for today's video will be available down below through the GitHub link. First, we want to open the code editor that we're going to use, and today I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. From here, we want to navigate to File, Open Folder, and open the folder where we want to create this project. So in my case, I'm going to create it right here and click Select Folder. At this point, I can go ahead and close out of this Welcome tab right here. We don't need that anymore. And if it asks you guys if you trust the authors, go ahead and click Yes, because it should be your own folder that you created. At this point, you want to navigate to your Explorer. If it's not open already, go ahead and click this top left icon here, and it will open the Explorer, and it will say the name of the folder that you selected. At this point, we can go ahead and right click, create a new file, and we want to create an index.html file. And this is going to be necessary for any HTML website that you guys create, and it will serve as our home page. Next, since this is going to be a two-page website, we're going to create one more file, and this is going to be our products.html file. Now we can create a new folder called images, and this is where I'm going to house all of the images in today's video. So if I open this, you're going to notice nothing is there, and at this point I can go ahead and paste in all of the images that I'm going to be using in today's video. And if you guys want to view these, you can view it directly in Visual Studio Code if you need to. Lastly, we want to create another folder, and this is going to be called our styles folder. Inside of this, we want to create a new file called styles.css. At this point, I want to navigate back to my index.html, and I want to set up a boilerplate using the exclamation mark. So if I go ahead and enter that in and click the enter key, you guys are going to notice that it sets up a basic HTML boilerplate. And for the title, I'm going to go ahead and change this to EEL Electronics, because again, it's going to be an electronic e-commerce store. Above our title, I want to go ahead and use a link element to link to our style sheet, and you guys are going to notice that Visual Studio Code adds the rel equal to style sheet. And next, what we need to do is actually link to that style sheet right here, like so. At this point, I want to go ahead and open a web browser, and today we're going to be using a CSS framework called Bootstrap. So we want to navigate to Bootstrap right here, and this will be linked down below in the description. And what we want to do is click on this first one here, and you guys can install it multiple ways. If you're using React or Angular, you can use NPM, for example. But for us, what we're going to do is we're going to use the easiest possible way to include Bootstrap, and that's just to use the CDN here. So all we need to do is copy both of these CDNs here and go ahead and paste them into our head element. And what you want to do is make sure that you include this before your style sheet, so you can always override any styles or add any custom styles that you want without Bootstrap interfering. Now that we have our link element included, we want to go ahead and copy this script element, minimize this, and go ahead and paste it right after that link element that we just created there. Now I want to navigate back to my browser again, and we're going to be using a Google font today, and Google Fonts is going to be a great free to use resource to use many different fonts, and you guys can go through here and kind of check it out and test out whatever font you want. But today I already know what font I want to use, and I want to use Rubik Glitch, so I'll go ahead and search for it here, and once it pops up, I can just go ahead and select Get Font right here, select Get Embed Code, and right here it's going to show me how I can embed this with HTML, and then how I can actually use it with CSS. So I'll go ahead and copy the HTML portion for now, and I'll come back to this a little bit later on today. And back here, we'll just go ahead and include this right after our Bootstrap code right in here. And now I can just go ahead and paste that in. And and I can use that font at any point I want. At this point, I want to actually use my live server so I can see what this HTML website looks like in a web browser. So down here in the bottom right, I'm going to select Go Live, and this is going to be my Open5 server. All that is a free to use extension right here in VS Code. If you guys want some extra help using extensions or finding the best ones for you, I'll link videos up top and down below that you guys can check out. And once I go ahead and click this, it's going to open up the website in a web browser. And I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the right side for now with my code editor on the left. And you guys can close out this terminal and it won't mess up your live server here. You guys are going to notice that nothing is displaying because we haven't actually created anything at all yet. All you can see that we have done at this point is that we included the title EEL Electronics, but anything else other than the title in your head element here is not something that you're going to be able to see on the client side, or namely in your browser. Next, we need to start creating some content, and the first thing we need to create is our navbar. But to keep this quick and easy, what we're going to do is go back to Bootstrap, navigate to the docs right here, and we're going to scroll down until we see the navbar components. And keep in mind, there is a bunch of free to use components and styles that will help you develop twice as fast as having to use standard CSS in Bootstrap here. So if we keep scrolling down, you'll see the components section. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. We want to select the navbar, and down here it's going to describe exactly what happens with the navbar. It'll show you examples of the navbar, and then what we want to do from this point is just go ahead and copy this HTML code just like so, and then go back to our website over here. And what we can do is just go ahead and paste this right into our body element like so, and you guys will see that that navbar now shows up and it's completely responsive. Now you guys are going to notice that the background of this navbar is a light gray. So if we go back to Bootstrap now and we click the search icon here and we want to search for background colors, you can simply go through here and it will show you all the different background colors that you can use simply by including a class like this. So all we have to do to use this blue color right here is we can copy this class without the period, and instead of the background body being tertiary here, what we can do is go ahead and change that to background primary. And you're going to notice that all we are doing is adding another class to our nav element right here. And if we navigate back to our website now, you're going to notice that the background is now blue. You guys are going to notice that that black color doesn't look very good and it's not easy to see. So to fix that, all we have to do is enter the data BS theme attribute here and make that equal to dark, which will make all of our elements a lighter color here. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and change this text navbar to the name of our business, which is going to be EEL Electronics. So we'll go ahead and type that in like so. And what we want to do is use this as a link to our index.html. So now if we click on this, it will take us directly to our index.html. And obviously we're already on that page, but once we create this whole site, it will let you navigate between the index and the products page. And now we want to use our custom font that we got from Google here, but Bootstrap is not going to help us with that. So what we want to do is navigate to our styles.css, and what we want to do is create a class. So to create a class, you want to start with a period here, and then you want to name your class, and you can name this whatever you want in this case. So we'll name this glitch. And all we want to do here is change the font, so we'll use font family. And so to use the Rubik Glitch font, what we want to do is go ahead and paste Rubik Glitch in here, and then serif here at the end is going to be a backup font in case this one does not work. So now to actually use this class, what we want to do is navigate back to our index.html, and all we have to do is go here to our anchor element where our text is, and where it already says class is we want to go ahead and add our glitch class. And now you guys will notice that that font is now being used. Next, if we open up the rest of our navigation, we don't need all of these links. We only need our home link, which is our EEL Electronics here, and then a link to the products page. And we also want to leave this search bar. So all we have to do is go back to our index page. We have to get rid of some of this stuff. So we want to navigate to where it says home, and in this case we'll just go ahead and change this text out to products, and then the link, we want to go ahead and link to our products.html page like so. You guys will notice that this changes in here, and if we navigate to our products.html, nothing appears because we haven't actually put anything in this HTML file yet. So we'll go ahead and go back to our index. And so all of this extra stuff below, we can just go ahead and highlight all of it and go ahead and delete it all. So what we want to do is just go ahead like this and just get rid of all of this extra fluff that we don't need and don't want. So now if I open up the navigation, you're going to see that it's just the products link and the search bar here with this button at the end. And now we don't want the background of this to be so dark, so what we want to do is navigate to our input, and where it says class, we want to add the background dash light class and the text dash dark class. And what this is going to do is it's going to make the background of this light and our text dark here. And for our button, we also want to add one more class, and this is going to be button dash light. And we want to get rid of this button outline success class right here. And if we open this up now, you guys are going to notice that our button is now lighter and our input here is lighter as well. But you guys are going to see that that placeholder text is not really easy to read. So what we want to do is navigate back to our styles.css file, and above our glitch here, we need to target our form control class, which is already included in our form here. Target the placeholder like so here. And we want to go ahead and change the color of it to this darker color right here using a hex value. And you guys are going to notice that it's showing up pretty dark, like we already typed in something there. So to fix that, all we need to do is change our opacity, and we can make this anything from 0 to 1. So we'll go ahead and just use 0.5. And now you guys can see it's a little bit easier to read, but it doesn't look like we typed something in there yet like this. Now I'm going to change this to a full screen view. I'm going to go ahead and right click it, inspect, and this is going to take me to my inspection and development tools right here. So you guys will notice that at this point you will be able to see EO Electronics products and our search bar. But if we shrink down to a mobile viewport like on a phone, you're going to notice that this shrinks down significantly, and it only shows this button to open up the rest of your navigation. So the problem with this though, no matter how wide we get, our nav bar is going to continuously resize and get wider and wider and wider, no matter how big this is. And you guys can see we are almost at 5,000 pixels wide here. So to fix this, we need to use a container from Bootstrap. And if you guys want to learn more about containers, you can navigate back to Bootstrap and simply search for container. And this will take you to all of the documentation on exactly how containers work in Bootstrap. But for now, we want to use this container large right here. So we'll go ahead and copy that. And then we want to navigate back to our code editor, back to our navbar. Instead of this container fluid class that it's using right now, we want to replace that with our container large. And now you guys can see that it's not resizing forever, no matter how big the view width gets. It'll only get so wide depending on the view width here, and then it will stop. And to make sure that this always stays in the middle, what we can do is add our margin class using an M followed by automatic, which will make sure that this is always centered on the client's page. Next, right underneath this navigation bar here, we want to add some basic spacing, and to do this, we're just going to create an HR element, and this is going to have several different classes, starting with margin of 0, a padding of 0, a background warning, which is going to be a yellow background, a border of 0, which will get rid of any border, and we want to add our opacity at 100. And these are all Bootstrap classes that are helping us style this element here. And now you guys are going to notice that we can't see anything yet. So what we need to do is navigate back to our styles and we want to go ahead and target our HR element like so. And since we're directly targeting an element, we don't have to use a period here. So with any of your elements, you can do this. And we simply want to change our height to 1 rem, and rem is going to be a relative unit. You can always use pixels, but from my perspective, I always recommend rems because these are easy to make responsive. So now you can see over here on our website, we simply have a yellow bar underneath our navigation. Now underneath our spacing, we're going to want to create the first thing that you're going to see when you enter this website, since this is the index page here. So what we want to do is go ahead and start off by creating a div element with a class of container small. And again, this is all coming from Bootstrap, a padding of 4. And we want to make our margin auto, but more specifically, we only want it to be left and right. So we're going to use MX for margin left and right. And we're going to change this to auto and go ahead and click enter. Next, we'll create another div with a class of row. And we also want to make this a flex box. And so what we're doing here is we're setting this up as a flex box, and we are also using row to make it a grid. If you guys want to learn more about grid and flexbox, I'll leave links to 2 different videos down below where I walk you through how to use grid and flexbox and how to understand them. Next, we're going to create another div with a class of call-12, and this is going to specifically have to do with the grid from the Bootstrap system. So if we go back here and search for a grid, it will take you through everything that you need to know about grid. And all you need to know at this point is that column-12 is going to be 1 element in 1 row. So you guys will see what I'm talking about in a moment here. And then to make this responsive, what we want to do is say column-medium-6. So this is going to make sure that there's 2 items in a row responsively as our viewport width expands. And then we again want to make this a flex box here. So we'll go ahead and add dflex. And flexbox is automatically going to put everything in 1 giant row. So to change this, we're going to use our flex column class. And we want to make sure that all of our items are aligned to the center using align items center. And then we also want to add a top and bottom margin of 4 here. So we'll use my for top and bottom margin, and then followed by 4. And we'll go ahead and create this. And inside of this div, we'll create an h1 element with a class of glitch. And inside of this, we're going to go ahead and say lightning deals. And we want each one of these words to show up on a different line. So all we have to do here is go ahead and add a BR element, which is basically just a line break here that we want to use. After that, we want to create an H3 element with a class of fs-2, which is going to be font size here, and we'll paste in our text. Next, we want to create a button, and for this case, we want to include a btn class, followed by btn-lg for large, followed by button-warning to make our background color yellow, and followed by margin top of 2 here. And we'll go ahead and include the text shop now. Next, what we're going to do is go ahead and copy this div with the class of call12. And what we're going to do is go ahead and paste it right down below. And now you guys can kind of see how our flex is working and how our grid is working. And if you guys kind of want to play around with this, what you can do is go ahead and inspect it. And you guys are going to notice that at a wider viewport, it's going to have 2 items in that first row here. But once we get smaller to a mobile size, you're going to notice that it drops down to 1 element per row here. And if you guys really want to understand how this works, I'll again leave those videos linked down below. And inside of this second div down here, we don't want to have all of this content. Instead, all we want to have is an image here, and we want to use a file from our images folder, and we'll simply use our galaxy fold image. And at this point, we also want to make sure we include or alt text for people using screen readers here. And we forgot to add our class, that's why it's displaying so huge. So we'll go ahead and create our class attribute here. and make this equal to W-50, which is going to make our width 50%. And I was having some problems when I was developing this. So normally with Bootstrap, you should be able to use the W-MD class to responsively change the size of this image, but it was not successfully working for me. So what I had to do instead was include this class like so, and then navigate to my styles and create what's called a media query. So a media query will let you do different things based on the size of your viewport. So in this case, we want to add a min width here, and what this is going to do is at this width and above, it's going to use this styling. So it's 768 pixels, and anything above that as far as the viewport width goes, it will use the specific classes that you include in here. So what we want to do is go ahead and target this with medium 100% class, and what we want to do is go ahead and change the width of this image to 75%, and to avoid any potential issues, we're also going to add the important attribute here, and this is going to force it to override anything else that might be interfering with it. So now if we go ahead and inspect our page again, and we go ahead and start shrinking down, you guys will notice that the size of our image responsively changes as we get bigger and or smaller. And now we just need to add one more custom style. So we're going to target our H1 element, and all we want to do is change the font size to something a little bit larger, like 4 rem. So now you guys can see this is really pronounced. So now we need to go ahead and create some products. So what I'm going to do is start off with a main element, add a class of d-flex, flex column again, a gap of 5, and a top and bottom margin of 5, and click enter. And what this is going to do is it's going to tell our browser that anything within this main element is the most important content on our HTML page. So on our home page, we want to include our top deals. So what we want to do is create a div element, and to bring some attention to this, we're going to change the background color to primary, and we want to have a padding bottom of 5. Next, we want to create an H2 element with a yellow background, so we'll use background warning, a width of 25, center our text using text center, add a automatic margin, a padding of 2, and go ahead and hit enter. And right here, we want to say top deals. And so now you guys can see that we're drawing the customer's attention to this top deals section here as they get into this website. Next, we want to create another div with a class of container. Next, we want to create another div with a class of container-large, a margin of auto, create a grid using row, and include a margin top of 4. Now we can finally start creating our first product using a div with a class of call-12 again, column small-6, and a margin Y of 2 here. Click enter. This will be followed by another div with a white background. We want to make this a flex box and add a padding of 2. Now we can create the name of our product using an H6 element, and this is going to be our Galaxy Fold. Next, we want to create a paragraph element, and we want to say our original price, but what we want to do within this paragraph is create a span, and we're going to use this span to include the class of text decoration line through. And what this is going to do is it's going to let us include a price here. So we'll go ahead and make the price here $14.99. Now you guys can see that there's a line striking this out because this is for our original price. And I need to take a step back for a moment because I accidentally messed something up. So above this H6 element, what we need to do is actually create our image element here to include our Galaxy Fold image. So we'll go ahead and include this again and make sure we include our alt text. This is really easy to forget, so don't do it. And this content down below that we just created actually needs to go inside of its own div element. So what we'll do is create a div and just go ahead and cut this and paste it right within that div element right here. And now for our image, we want to go ahead and include a class, and this is just going to be a width of 50%. Next, we're going to go ahead and copy this paragraph element and paste it down below. And what we want to do is include our sale price here. And instead of our text decoration class, we want to use the background of danger, which is going to be red. Make our text white, add a padding of 1, and then make the corners rounded here. And we'll go ahead and change this price to something like $9.99 and 99 cents. Underneath this sale, what we want to do is create a button element with the class of BTN, and then we want to go ahead and use our color followed by the size of our button, and we're going to make this one small, and we're simply going to add the text add to cart. So now you guys can see the layout for each one of the products that we're going to go ahead and use. So now you guys can see that our first product is being displayed. Next, what I need to do is go ahead and copy this div element with the call 12 class and go ahead and just paste it down below. So now you guys can see that we have a new item right here, and it's all completely responsive based on the viewport width. But at this point, what we need to do is go ahead and change out all of this information. So now you guys can see that I successfully changed everything out, and now we're displaying an iPhone and a new original and sales price instead of the Galaxy Fold. So now that we have our items set up and ready to go, we can just copy and paste this as many times as we want. But in my case, I think it looks nice just to have our 2 top deals right here displaying. Next, underneath our top deals and main element, what I want to do is encourage customers to sign up for our newsletter. Create another div with a class of margin Y5 with 75, an automatic margin. Make this a flex box, say flex column here. We want to add a gap property of 3. Inside, we'll create another div, create an H2 element, paste in the text subscribe to our newsletter for 5% off, and you guys can see that displaying here. Create another HR element with a margin of 0, a padding of 0, a yellow background, remove the border, and make sure our opacity is 100 and go ahead and hit enter. And you guys are going to notice, since we're targeting all of our HR elements in our styles.css, it also uses the height of 1 rem here. Underneath this portion, we want to include an input element so users can actually enter an email address and subscribe to the newsletter here. So what we can do is navigate back to Bootstrap, go ahead and search for form, and right here it's going to give us an entire form, but all we really need is a portion of this. So from label down here through the first div, we'll go ahead and copy that, go back over here, create our own div, and go ahead and just paste this content right here. If we navigate back now, you guys are going to see that it asks for an email address, and we have an input right here. And we also need a button to submit this, so we'll go back and we'll copy this button element down here and paste it in right after our input, like so. And you guys are going to notice that I accidentally messed this up, so I'll add that opening bracket here. And now you guys can see that we successfully have our button displaying. But from here, we want to customize some of this. So right after our label element, we want to create a new div with a class of dflex to create another flexbox container. And we want to go ahead and copy our input and our button and just go ahead and paste it right in here. Now you guys are going to notice that our input and our button are displaying side to side. So this is what a flexbox does here if you don't add anything specifically like flex column. And so here we want to change the color of our button to warning, which is our yellow, and we also want to change the size of our button to a medium button, and then we want to add a margin side of 2, so we have a little bit of spacing there. So now you guys can see that we have a basic input set up and ready to go so people can subscribe to our newsletter. If you guys want to see how to actually send this somewhere and create a database with user emails that you can use to send out more promotions and stuff like that, I have a video where I show you how to do that entire thing with PHP. Leave a link up top and down below for you guys. Now lastly, we need to create our footer at the bottom of our page. So what we'll do is start off with a footer element, use a background color of primary again, make all of our text white, and add a padding of 3. And inside of this, we'll create a div with a container large class, a margin of auto, and a row because we want to create a grid. Inside of this, we'll create a div with a class of call-12 and call-medium-6 to again make this responsive. And here we want to create an H4 and we want to paste in the name of our business of Eel Electronics. And underneath this, we want to create a paragraph element, create the copyright symbol with an ampersand, followed by the word copy and a semicolon, followed by Eel Electronics 2025. Next, we're going to go ahead and copy this div element and go ahead and paste it down below. And inside here, we want to delete all of this. And we also want to make this element a flex box, and we want to say flex column. And now we'll create an H6 element, and this is just going to be a basic sitemap. So we want to create an anchor element with a class of text-white, and then we simply want to link to our index.html. And again, this is our home page. We want to do that one more time, but for our products page. So we'll go ahead and change this from index to our products, and we'll go ahead and say products right here. So now you guys can see that we have our index page or our home page completely set up and ready to go. The last thing we need to do is go ahead and include our little favicon right here, or our browser icon. So what we can do is go ahead and navigate back up to our head element, and I'm going to include mine right above my Google fonts, and I want to create a link element, and the rel, instead of being equal to style sheet, we're going to make this equal to icon. We want to link to our favicon image here, and keep in mind this has to be a square or it will kind of look distorted. So we'll just go ahead and include our eelfish logo. And now you guys can see that this is displaying up here in our browser tab. And just to make sure we don't have problems across browsers, we want to make our type equal to image/x-icon. So now that we have this completely set up and ready to go, what we need to do is create our products page to have a fully functioning website. So what we can do is just use Control-A and then copy all of this and go into our products.html page and simply paste all of that in like so. And now make sure that you navigate to the products.html page, and we're going to start by changing the title of this page to products. And what we want to do is leave our navigation alone, leave our HR alone. We want to get rid of this landing section. And now, since we're just on the generic products page, we want to get rid of this because it's not going to be our top deals anymore. And what we can do at this point is go ahead and remove the class from this div here. Now you guys are going to see that our background is gone. And what I want to do now is change top deals to simply all products. And I want to go ahead and change my margin top and bottom to simply margin bottom here. And then before we change anything here, what I want to do is scroll down. You don't need to mess with the newsletter here. You can remove this if you don't want it on this page, but I think having it on both is a good reminder for people. And then the footer is also going to stay exactly the same. And at this point, all we need to do now to complete our products page is just change out all of the information here for each one of our products. Make sure we have the correct image, name, original price, and sales price. So what I'll do is change these out really quick. Now you guys will notice that I included my products in a different order here, and I have 2 products, and then I'll just duplicate these again and change them out. So now you guys can see I have 4 products followed by my final 2 products. So for this website, I only have 6 products so far, but you guys can take this as far as you want. So if we go ahead and make this full screen, you guys are going to see that it's all completely responsive as far as our products go. And if we kind of shrink this down a little bit, you guys are going to notice that everything is completely responsive, nice and beautifully for mobile devices. So we can scroll through all of this and still see all of our products and information on our website and successfully use our navigation bar. Congratulations, you just created a full HTML and CSS e-commerce website using HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. I find this to be one of the fastest ways to develop websites and one of the easiest, especially once you learn all of the Bootstrap classes by memory. It makes it really easy and really efficient to develop websites without having to create a whole bunch of custom CSS. If you need some help, make sure you go down in the comments and let me know what you need help with, and I will respond to you. I hope this video helped you out and really gets you guys pointed in the right direction. Thanks so much for watching, and keep in mind all of the source code will be down below for you guys to look at.